The world's wealthy, and an Oxfam study found that the globe's wealthiest 10% are responsible for about 50% of greenhouse gas emissions. On the other hand, the poorest half of the global population are responsible for only about 10% of those emissions. But the poor are the most vulnerable to the climate crisis, which is in large part caused by those emissions. The guest you're about to meet is trying to right that wrong and achieve what she calls climate justice for the poor. Mary Robinson is not just an activist. She was the first female president of Ireland. She was then the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights. She is now chair of the Elders, a group founded by Nelson Mandela that brings global leaders together to cultivate a world that is peaceful and just. Welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me how you solve this problem, because it just seems like a conundrum. It is true that, certainly historically, the world's rich countries have caused this problem of climate change. But the most vulnerable, it's the Bangladeshis of the world that will face flooding and they can't afford the dikes. How do you do something about this?
I think the first thing is to make it more people-centered. And that means looking at it from the point of view of the impact on people now. This isn't a problem of the future, which quite a few people still think it is. Melting glaciers, melting slowly somewhere, and it will affect us. No, it's an absolute problem now all over the world, including here in the United States. And what we need to do is, I think, get everybody to take 3 steps. The first step is make it personal in your life. Do something that you wouldn't have been doing and deal with your own carbon footprint in some way. That might mean recycle more carefully, change your eating habits. I've become a pescatarian. I don't eat meat anymore. The second step is get angry and get active. Get angry with those who have more responsibility, like governments and cities, etc., to do more. And get active in supporting with your voice and your vote, but also those who are trying to deal with conservation, planting trees, bringing solar energy to poor countries, etc. And the third thing, and this is the most important, we have to imagine this world that we need to be hurrying towards. Because the scientists told us last October, we have 12 years. Now we're in August of the 11th year. So, we have less than 11 years. In which to reduce global carbon emissions by 45% globally. At the moment, we're not going in the right direction. Last year, carbon emissions went up. This year, they will go up.
And in general, we tend to think of those broader trends for women as positive. Would you share that view?
Well, I'm very focused at the moment on one trend, which is a very good one. Women have suddenly become aware of the climate issue. They were aware in Africa, of course. They were aware in South Asia because they deal with this problem is so much part of their lives. But until recently, European women and women in the United States and Canada just were not aware. They would talk about Me Too, equal pay issues, health, education, and then they'd mention climate, but not know how to talk about it. And I think the report of the scientists last October has changed that. Suddenly, this is a big problem for my children and grandchildren. And suddenly, women leaders are really moving, and I'm so pleased. And I can't tell you how many meetings I'm attending now where women are having declarations on climate justice, women are meeting to take control of this issue.
Mary Robinson, pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
The Illuminati control large parts of the country and the world. These kind of conspiracy theories, this enormous suspicion of power, that is something that, people who live in cities don't recognize. There's a lot of that out there, and there is a great deal of distrust of metropolitan elites. Where do you think it comes from?
I think it is something that is based in reality. The 25 poorest states in the Union, and 21 of them I discovered voted for Trump. So I think if you're looking for a source of populism, why is it that people are so frustrated with the system? And my cousin turned to me and said, it's getting so the only thing there is to do in town is die. And I don't think it's a bad metaphor for what these people are experiencing. Their whole way of life is just evaporating. And I think a lot of things that might be good for the country as a whole, whether it's globalization or technology or all the ways that the economy is changing, that economists will tell us this is good for the country as a whole, are disastrous for them. And this feeling that they have that there's an elite crowd, a global crowd that has interests that are totally different from theirs, that are the ones in charge, I don't think that's crazy.